Hello, everybody, and welcome to this next episode of Connections That Count. I've got another great episode for you today with an amazing guest, Christin Cherry. She's the founder of Montre Process, and she is extremely passionate about business and entrepreneurship, has a lot of great experience there. So without further ado, please enjoy this next episode. Thank you. Hey, well, Kristen, thank you very much for joining me on this next episode of Connections That Count. Obviously, really appreciate your time and you carving out some time here for the episode. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Tyler. I am thrilled to be in this conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome. Well, I thought we could start. Obviously, right now you've got a whole bunch of different things that you're working on. You've got a lot of different business and leadership things that you've got your hands in. Obviously, very passionate about it. I just kind of wanted to ask how you ended up getting to the point where you're at now.
Yeah. So I started, yes, entrepreneur for many, many years. I think going on 17, 18 years, I've been an entrepreneur and in the business world. Since then, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have many, like you said, my hands in many things. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about that today because I feel like we're all busy with things. How you manage, pursuing those opportunities while still having that balance and harmony in your life. So I would love to dive into that a little bit more as I share with you guys today. But what led me here, back in 2009, I actually ventured off into the business world. Um, it was a part-time side thing, passionate about it. It was leading women in a workout in a park. So just like a boot camp style workout. I was 3 months in an area. My husband was active duty Marine Corps at the time. So we moved around every 3 to 4 years. And I found myself in Florida and all of my kids starting school and having a little bit of time on my hands, said I needed to venture off into something. So I found myself leading women through workouts in the park, and it was wonderful. We ended up growing into a franchise. I think it took us about 10 years. We expanded into more of a brick and mortar boutique style facility, and we expanded up to 75 units coming into 2020. So we hit the ground running. We started leaning into all of the development because I had a few business partners along the way. I got a few business partners and none of us had business background. It was a passion towards what we were doing and problem solving and figuring it out along the way. So we expanded to 75 units. Over 20 of those were open, operating, meeting full support. And so it became challenging to figure out how to manage your time because it's a lot of heavy lifting. Those are people that invested $500,000 into that franchise and now look to you for all of the answers and guidance. And so that became, tricky to balance, right? So that's a lot of time, that's a lot of brain energy, and everybody that invests in that franchise deserves the time and the energy that we needed to provide them. So that was really what led me into 2020. Of course, COVID for me shook up my life, much like many of the listeners, I am sure. So we had investors in that franchise towards the back half. And so they continued on with that franchise. And I broke off into consulting and coaching small business owners that are trying to do something similar. Maybe not franchising, nothing big, but essentially they are trying to grow their businesses and become leaders in their businesses. And much like my journey, and I imagine much like a lot of leaders and managers' journey, you get more and more responsibility. You get more and more, I would say less and less brain capacity because you're really pushing that towards what where it's needed most. And so developing and learning that along the way. And this again, it's been 17 years. it's been a fun journey for me because I love to learn, but that doesn't come with some challenges, some uncomfortable moments. So that's really what led me here today.
Well, and thank you very much for sharing that. And I just want to say that I think this is a personal opinion, but you can read a lot of books, but when you have to do it, that's just a little bit different, right? And so I think that's what I would say is so valuable about your insights and a lot of the perspective that you bring is that you know you sort of came at it from where I think a lot of us are coming from. We're not experts. We didn't go to Stanford Business School or whatever it is, right? But through experience, you were able to learn a lot, and obviously you're passionate about sharing and helping others, and so I think it like shines through in the things that you do. So thank you very much. Um, just kind of springboarding off of that. Um, Obviously there's a lot of elements of sharing and giving back, and a lot of the things that you were doing, even though they are entrepreneurial, I do think they're very like customer service, wanting to give back focused. Where do you think that passion or that those elements came from, in your businesses or in your mindset?
Oh man. So we in our leadership team, we would do this exercise occasionally for every time we would do a planning. We do a different team building exercise or just really kind of bringing us together as a leadership team. And there's an exercise that we would do, and it was where our team would put the biggest contribution on one side of a note card that all of us would provide, individually. What was your biggest contribution? On the other side, we would always put, what's one thing that you should start, stop, or continue doing? So it's good to be back, but it's also biggest contribution. And I still their note cards, you would receive one note card per team member, and they would read them off to you first and then give it to you. So I still have all of these note cards. And every single one of them said my passion is what was my biggest contribution and the thing that they didn't want me to stop doing. And so my passion that intrigued me. I thought, what is it about my passion that really propels me to continue to do what you do? Through that, I realized it is truly and deeply the passion, the confidence that I see people develop over time. So first it was watching women in our target audience, were women who may have not worked out for a while, and they were just trying to get back into it. And knowing my target audience were women, moms, we tend to pour ourselves into everybody else, not necessarily into us. So it was so empowering. It was so cool to watch women start this exercise journey, and it impacts your whole life. When you feel good, it just impacts the way you show up to work, the way you show up as a wife, as a mom, as a sister, as a friend, all of these things. And so watching these women just become confident to themselves was such a beautiful thing. And what I didn't realize happened whenever we entered into that second layer of business, which was franchising, to where I no longer needed to worry about working out and fitness and what that looked like. We built that model, we perfected that model. Now I needed to understand how to uh, be in the business of a big business, right? These were all business things now, not fitness things. And so at that layer, I realized it was bringing in people who wanted to be business leaders and business owners. We were providing them the space for them to having that franchise team and watching them develop into confident business owners just filled my cup. They would come in so terrified. And of course, it was like drinking from a water hose. We'd have to give them so much information on how to run a business and what to look for. But, creating a lot of the structures that allow you to make those decisions or allow you to confidently move through your business, that's where the beauty was. So it was really cool to be able to provide them the structure and then show them, here's the structure, you get to do it. Like, you can do this because you have the ability. Watching them have confidence then, and then since then, seeing all of these people who were introduced to the business world continuing to grow in their entrepreneurial journeys and their leadership journeys after the fact, It's just so cool. So it's fun to from every layer all came back to watching people develop confidence in themselves and whatever they're doing. I love that. I love that. It fills my cup.
No, and that's awesome. So thank you very much for sharing. And my 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 only other thought, just to wrap things up just a little bit here. Obviously, like you said, you've been helping instill that confidence in tons of people who are, entrepreneurial minded, trying to start their own business. Maybe a piece of advice for somebody who might not have a coach like you, who's able to help them through the steps on maybe setting up some of that structure, or just how maybe you as an individual gain some of that confidence yourself.
Yeah, that's a great question. I am, I think, most passionate about this because I think this is how you built the confidence. There was a moment in my journey, and it was towards the end of owning and being a part of that franchise, that I had a coach look at me and my leadership team, because it was all of us, and she said, "Has this business outgrown you?" And it hurt so bad to hear that because it was starting to become true. There's a saying that she taught us, and there's a saying, I think, in the business world, leadership world. Um, you are the ceiling in your own business, or you are your ceiling in your leadership. So to think about that, no matter how high you go in your education and your leadership and your development, nobody is going to jump over you. You're going to be that ceiling. And so when you develop bad habits, or you're refusing to grow in areas that you really know you should, you become a ceiling, and you can get frustrated with people that you're trying to lead and delegate things to. But if you've become the ceiling in your organization, then nobody is going to outgrow you. And we were struggling because we were tired, we were exhausted, we were defeated in a lot of ways. And when you focus so much on getting the things done and doing what's in front of you and chipping away at the big plan, you don't allow yourself time to take a step back and say, how am I growing? How am I developing? When you grow and you develop and you're intentional about those things, and I don't mean spending, we go to college, we went through high school, we went through college or trade school, certifications, and it's this long, exhaustive time to think and learn. It doesn't end there. It just looks different. So it's picking up the $25 books, or the free podcast, or the $15 a month Audible. It's seeking out those mentors and those consultants and those coaches. Tyler, you've read this, the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan would change the way you think about this. But stop thinking that you have to do it all. You have to start growing and developing in more ways. So bring in some information, find some time in your days and weeks to intentionally develop yourself, and then celebrate those wins along the way will provide you the confidence to keep growing. We don't know the answers. We don't always show up knowing and being the senior and the expert, but that's not the point, right? It's growing to get there. And even when you're the expert or the senior, you should still be growing, right?
Hopefully, right? Yeah.
uh, don't hit that ceiling, and it's a glass ceiling. Break through it. This is such a beautiful world we live in. There's so much opportunity. If you're in America, you're living in the top 1% of the world. We are so blessed. Take advantage of that, and don't let certain things kind of take that flame away from you. So what I say is, make sure that you're managing your time wisely. And that seems so simple to say. I know that's not easy. But you have to be intentional. So you find that time to develop yourself, to work on yourself, to grow yourself, and then fold that into what you're doing, whether it's leading big teams, it's trying to grow a business, or it's just trying a new hobby, a new sport. Whatever that is, you're going to be new in that. But don't think that growth journey should end. It just tends to look a little bit different. So that's what I would say is, don't ever be your own ceiling. Break through it, keep growing, keep developing, and look for the resources out there, because there's so many now.
Absolutely. Help yourself. Absolutely. I get it. So, well, thank you very much, Kristen. Again, your perspective is really appreciated and valuable. And I'm sure everybody's going to really appreciate this episode. So thank you. And if you'd like to reach out to Miss Kristen, I'll make sure she's tagged on the post. And I'm sure she'd love to help and have a conversation. So thank you very much.
Tyler, I appreciate your
Awesome.
time.
Awesome.